Look, I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I rented this car for one day just to make this introduction, and I can't even get out of it comfortably. I also don't smoke cigars, and this costs $5, so that can fuck off. Now, I became a millionaire at 21 years old, and I made a ton of money mistakes and financial mistakes on my journey. What I'm gonna do in this video is explain them to you so you can become a millionaire or get rich way faster with way more ease and way less pain than I had to go through. So let's get into it. So mistake number one that I made was this house. So this house cost me $30,000 a month to live in. And I put down a 2-year lease, which means that it's cost me $720,000 to live here on the Palm in Dubai. It might look great and it might feel great and it does my ego way too much justice, but it's a terrible mistake. If I took that $720,000 and reinvested it into my company, I'd have made maybe 2-3 million back. If I invested it in the stock market over a 50-year time horizon, it would be worth $15 to $25 million. So the first lesson of making money is don't be an idiot and don't let your ego get the better of you like I did. Right, so talking of house, learning how to make money online or learning how to make money at an early age in your late teens or your early 20s or late 20s is kind of like buying a property somewhere and realizing that in that property or on that property, you're on top of an oil field or a gold mine. And so one day you're in your garden, you dig up some oil or some gold, and you're like, oh my God, I'm literally sat on a gold mine or like an oil field. And it's akin to basically digging up some oil and going to sell that oil. And then instead of taking the money that you used to mine more oil and make more money, you go and take that money and you go and buy a new watch or a car or a house or some other material object. Wealth loves feedback loops. And so what you need to learn to do is take the money that you earn in the early stage of your entrepreneurial career and use that to make more money. And if you do that for long enough, it's very, very simple and very straightforward. But you'll make tons. If you can resist the egotistical temptation to be an idiot like me and rent a 6-bedroom mansion on the Palm that is way above your means, you'll make way more money. For example, if I took the $30,000 a month that I spend on this house and spent it on YouTube ads or Facebook ads or team members for my company, I'd probably return $100,000 a month on a 3-to-1 ROAS, as we'd say in the marketing world. And so the first lesson is don't be an idiot. The money that you make and the money that you earn should be reinvested to make more money. Once you're 40 years old, 50 years old, or in your mid-30s or whatever, and you've got 10, 20, 100 mil in the bank, then you can start doing stupid stuff like this. But I wouldn't recommend it because money loves money and you need to create a feedback loop. Now, I know you're keen to probably see inside this thing. So before I let you in, there's one thing you need to know. Do not try and have multiple streams of income. It's a mistake that I made. This idea that differentiation and putting your eggs in lots of different baskets is not a good idea. The only way to really create wealth is through focus. You've heard from lots of different sources and lots of different people that the average millionaire has 7 streams of income. There might be some truth in that, but I've met hundreds of millionaires and I've met a billionaire, I've met people worth 9 figures, multi-8 figures, and the vast majority of them just have one thing. They just focused on one thing and got really good at one thing. So focus is power, wealth loves focus. Now let's go inside. So the next mistake that I made was not valuing my time properly. So if I take you back to when I was 21, 22 years old, I was making about 100 grand a month with my marketing agency. And I'd basically figured out how to make, $200-300 an hour pretty much consistently, with my time. And what I forgot to do was value my time. And what that basically meant is once I figured out how to make $300 an hour, anything that I would do that I could outsource for less than $300 an hour was costing me $300 an hour. So let me give you an example. I used to clean my own house. I used to mow my own lawn. I used to wash my own car. I used to do my own grocery shopping, pay my own bills, and do my own cooking all by myself. And what that basically did is it cost me a lot of time. And so if I could pay someone to do those things for me, I was making a ton of money because I could have worked with that time instead. So for example, if I have to go to the shops and buy groceries, and then I've got to come home, cook those groceries into a meal, then I've got to wash the dishes and put the dishes away, that's like a whole maybe 2 or 3 hour thing. That cost me like $600 to $900 in terms of my time. And so what I do now that I've learned that lesson, rather painfully might I add, is I put a dollar amount on my time, and anything that costs less than my time to outsource it, I outsource. For example, the other day I bought a bookcase. Okay, I bought a bookshelf from like a flat pack furniture company. And I was like, there's absolutely no way in hell that I'm spending 2 hours assembling this because that's going to cost me like 10 grand. So instead I hired someone to do it for me, paid him like $50, and I saved myself like $4,500 or something like that. So you have to start learning to value your time. Now, the other mistake that I made in addition to that is forgetting the value of a dollar. So Sam Walton, who was the founder of Walmart, wrote a book called Made in America, which was his autobiography. And at the time when he wrote this book, he was the richest man in America, which is no small feat. And he had a piece of advice for his buyers, people who bought items for Walmart to sell them at retail in their stores. And one of Walmart's core principles, and this piece of advice he gave to his buyers, was never forget the value of a dollar. And what he basically means is even when you're rich and even when you've got tons of money and more than you know what to do with, you never want to forget how much a dollar meant to you when you were poor. Because if you treat money the same way that you treated it when you were poor, with that same level of respect and that same level of fear, then you're going to hold on to it. But if you start to squander it and aimlessly spend it without forgetting how much it actually means, you're going to be in trouble. And I started to do this when I moved to Dubai. Like, I went to dinner when I first came to Dubai. I'd go to all these fancy dinners and stuff. And like, I'd spend like $500 on like a date, or like, you know, $1,000 on some activity, or like, you know, $500 on a cigar or something. And that's how you lose. That's how you go from poor to rich back to poor. It's forgetting the value of money and forgetting the value of the dollar. So next time you're thinking about spending all that money that you've made, just think about how you treat it if you were poor, and you'll probably keep it. So the reason I'm telling you to value a dollar is because when you spend $1, you actually spend $30. Now you might be thinking, how? That makes no sense. How does $1 turn into 30? Well, it's something called compound interest. So I'm going to put something on the screen right now, and I don't know where it will be, but it's going to show you. I'm going to put $1 in, and we're going to compound this over 50 years at a 7% interest rate, which basically means if you put this in a bank account or the stock market and you get a 7% return on your investment on this dollar, and you compound that over 50 years, then this is the result. And you can see it's like $30. So every time you spend $1, you remove the ability for you to financially compound that over a long period of time, which means that it costs you way more than $1. And this is what really rich people understand, is they treat their money as though it's been compounded for 60, 70 years. And that's how you create this true legacy wealth. That's how you become a billionaire. It takes time. I know the argument might be, oh, but I want to have fun now and I want to have this and that. Kind of comes back to what I said earlier about the house. Like, if I took this $720,000 that I spent on this house and I just put it in the stock market for 50 years and didn't touch it, I'd have 21 million. Now, yeah, sure, I'll be like 70 years old or whatever, but my grandkids are going to be very grateful for that. So what do you prefer, your legacy or your ego? It's a good question to ask. So the next point, and this was a big mistake that I made early on. So when I was an early stage entrepreneur in my first year, I made some money. I think I made like, I don't know, like 50,000, 100,000 or something like that. And the biggest mistake that I made, well, there was two. One was not putting money aside for the tax man. So basically, every time you make $1 and every time $1 enters your account, you want to calculate what amount of that you owe to the government. And you need to send that amount, every time you make money, you send that amount to a separate bank account that you do not touch, that is specifically solely for tax. So in the UK, for example, if you've got a limited company, the profit tax is 25%, which makes my eyes water. But if you make, $100 in profit on 1 month in your company, then you're going to take 25 and put it in a bank account, and that no longer belongs to you, it belongs to the government. Because if you don't do this, and most entrepreneurs forget to do this, then what happens is they come around in their second year, then they've got this massive tax bill to pay that they haven't got the money for, so they have to start like catching up. And then basically the financial initial conditions of your entire business trajectory are messed up, and you're always playing catch up to this tax thing until you start making serious money. So that's lesson number one. Huge mistake I made. I had a tax bill for like 15 grand that took me like 3 years to catch up on, so don't make that mistake. And then the second mistake I made, which is kind of along a similar path, is not properly tracking expenses and income. And I know this sounds super straightforward and super simple, but what you need to do, and I didn't do this for the first year and I massively regret it, what you need to do is you need to create a spreadsheet, and for every month of the year that you're in business, and you need to every day or every week track every single expense and every single income into your bank account. Now, I'm talking specifically about a business bank account here, but also sometimes your personal one as well, because what's going to happen, my friend, is you're going to enter the world of tax returns, and you're going to have to go to the government and declare your income legally. And an accountant is the person that's going to help you do that. And the second you try and get an accountant, they're going to say, okay, well, let me have your income and expenses. And if you haven't got them, well, now you've got to spend like 4 weeks of your life desperately finding receipts and invoices and bank statements. It's chaos. I went through it. Most early stage entrepreneurs go through it. Keep a log of your expenses, keep a log of your income. And that way, not only are you aware of what you're spending money on, but also when the time comes, you're perfectly organized and you're not going to get in financial trouble. So The next mistake that I made, and I'm a little bit shamed about this one, to be honest with you, is competing in the right game. So when you start making money and when you start becoming successful, there's two types of competition that you can play. You can either play the status game or the competence game. And what this basically means is that you can either go and buy all the fancy things and you can basically start to compete with other men on status, or you can basically ignore all of that and don't do any of that and put all of your attention into your work and try to compete in the game of business as opposed to the game of status. And this is why, for example, like some of you will have seen this in my videos before, I purposefully wear a Casio watch because I want to tell everyone I'm not competing with you on status. Like I'll see you on the battlefield, you know, the battlefield of business, although that sounds terribly cringy, but you get what I'm saying, right? Don't compete on status. Don't do what I did with this house. It was stupid and I regret it. Don't buy the fancy cars. If you do, just don't tell anyone. Like you can enjoy nice things, but buy them for you, not because of what other people are going to think of you. And it's really easy to get lost and it's really easy to fall off when you start competing on status as opposed to competence. And competence is basically how good are you at what you do. You've only got so much time and energy, so you might as well spend it on getting better at what you do and not buying fancy watches. So following on from that point, you've got to keep your eye on the prize. So let me tell you a story. Michael Jordan, obviously we all know him, famous basketballer. He went from zero to hero real quick. He became the best basketballer in the world, one of the most famous people in the world, very, very quickly, you know, when he was at his prime in his career all those years ago. And with that fame and with that success came a lot of distractions. You know, he started, suddenly every single celebrity in the world wanted to meet him. He got invited to the most exclusive parties. He got the best brand deals. You know, he got the best girls. He got the best yachts, the best everything. Everyone wanted to know him. Distractions flying at him from everywhere. And for a minute, he started to succumb to these distractions and he started going to the house, the parties and seeing all the people and getting all the brand deals. And what happened, funnily enough, is after a few months of doing this, his game started to get worse. And everyone started to notice that he was falling off and he was no longer the best basketball player. And Jordan pretty much picked up on this real quick. And he told his agent, I'm not doing any more interviews. I'm not doing any more press conferences. I'm not doing any more promotions. I'm not going to any parties. I'm just going to practice and fall back in love with the game, not the outcome of playing the game. And when he did that, he obviously became the best in the world again. And so what's going to happen as you become successful and you start making money is you're going to have these temptations to make these ridiculous lifestyle vlogs and, start telling everyone how successful you are and start playing like these status driven games. Don't. It's a trap. Like you can either be super rich or you can be perceived as super rich. Does that make sense? So you can either create your life where you actually are incredibly rich, or you can create your life where you look incredibly rich. And you probably see this online with a lot of people who have these fancy, you've seen the vlogs, day in the life of so-and-so in Dubai at this age, making this amount of money. I know the lives of these guys. They make way less money than you think. Like if you want to rent a Lamborghini and rent a house and rent a watch and, pay some models to come on a boat with you, you can get that done for like 10K and then get like a full 3 months of content out of like $10,000. And then you can take that money and then use it to sell your courses off the back of basically people thinking that you're rich. And so this whole game is just completely weird and skewed. Don't fall for it. But more importantly, when you start making money, keep your eye on the prize. Stay focused on the game. Stay focused on your competence and your product and actually serving and adding value and delivering, as opposed to just using your wealth as an extension of your ego.
Oh my God, what a nice car. What do you do for a living?
I rent Lamborghinis and sell low ticket courses. What do you want?